The structure of some people's hip bones makes it virtually impossible to maintain a neutral spine with traditional deadlift form.
So what can we do about it? Well, today I brought in world-renowned back pain expert Dr. Stuart McGill, who has studied the science of back pain for over 30 years. He's also personally trained and recovered elite level athletes, some of which have deadlifted over 1,000 pounds and performed other incredible feats of strength. Together, we'll dive into the 5 causes of back injury during deadlifts and how you can avoid them.
The first reason has to do with your hip structure. Some individuals are born with deep hip sockets. These individuals tend to have the most trouble getting into and pulling from the bottom position of a deadlift. Here's Stu demonstrating exactly why that happens.
When descending into the deadlift, if the foot stance is too narrow, you can see how in this particular person, you will get a mechanical collision between the top of the hip socket and the leg bone. And that creates FAI, or femoral acetabular impingement.
So in this case, if they try to get deeper than their hip anatomy allows, they'll feel a pinching sensation in their hips that stops them from getting any deeper without rounding at the lower back. In contrast, other individuals are born with more shallow hip sockets. The populations that have the highest rates of shallow hip sockets come from regions like Bulgaria, Poland, China, and Ukraine. And it's no coincidence that the top weightlifters are often born there, as their shallow hip sockets make getting into and coming up from the bottom of a deadlift or squat much easier. Now, this doesn't mean that those with deep hip sockets shouldn't deadlift.
The solution would be to widen out the stance with this particular anatomy, and you can see you can descend much deeper into the lifter's wedge, setting up the deadlift pull.
Now, to find the perfect foot stance for you and your hips, there is a simple 2-part test that we can do. Here's the first part of that test.
One of the best tests to link anatomy and deadlift style is the pelvic rock back. So I'm going to set my knees on the floor fairly narrow, and then I'm going to adopt an all-4 position, and I'm checking in the mirror to see the curve of my back. I'm going to have my feet the same width as my knees, and as I rock back, I can now feel the collision in my hip, and if I go any further and check that in the mirror, I can see now that I'm stressing my back. So the solution, I'm going to try and find a more stress-free position. I've now widened out my knees and my feet, and I find spine neutral and rock back, and there all of a sudden I'm matching my anatomy and finding a much lower descent possible in the deadlift. Now I'm going to widen out a little bit further, and I see that, I've found a little bit of a compromise now. So my optimal position is somewhere in the middle. Now the key is to translate that information onto the platform.
So the first part of the test is going to get you the right foot width to use when deadlifting. The next part of the test is to play around with turning your feet further in or out and seeing what is most comfortable as you get into the bottom position and what enables your knees to remain in line with your toes. In general, those with deeper hip sockets find the most comfort with a fairly wider stance and the feet turned out. Sumo deadlifts also tend to be a good option here as well.